He thought a luxury cruise meant safety, comfort, and memories that would last forever, but one careless decision turned the ocean into a silent witness, and what happened next is something every traveler needs to hear before they ever step on a ship. Before the story begins, take 1 second to like this video. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because this story could save your life or the life of someone you love. He was 39 years old, cautious by nature, responsible at work, and respected by friends and family. When he booked a cruise, he believed it was the safest vacation possible. Massive ship, trained staff, medical facilities, and thousands of people around him. Safety felt guaranteed. The advertisements promised relaxation, endless food, and worry-free days drifting across blue water. What they did not warn him about were the invisible dangers hidden behind comfort and routine. The cruise began like a dream. Sunlight reflected off the ocean as the ship pulled away from port. Music played, laughter echoed, and phones were raised to capture the moment. He stood at the railing, breathing in the salty air, feeling lighter than he had in years. This was his reward after years of non-stop work. On the first night, he made the first mistake, one that millions of cruise passengers make. Without thinking, he attended the welcome dinner and drank more than usual. Free-flowing drinks, encouragement from strangers, and the excitement of the moment pushed him past his limit. He was not reckless on land, but the floating sense of freedom changed his judgment. Alcohol hits harder at sea, but no one explains that, and he did not realize it until later. As the ship rocked gently, he returned to his cabin dizzy and disoriented. He skipped drinking water, skipped food, and fell asleep immediately. Dehydration crept in silently, and the next morning he woke with a pounding headache and blurred vision. He brushed it off, assuming it was normal vacation fatigue. Second mistake followed just hours later. He ignored the safety briefing. He stayed in his cabin while the video played. He had seen them before. Life jackets, muster stations, emergency drills. He believed nothing serious could happen to a ship this large. That belief would later haunt him. By midday, the ship docked at its first destination, a vibrant tropical island filled with markets, excursions, and smiling guides. He signed up for an adventure without researching it thoroughly. A snorkeling trip offered by a third-party vendor, not directly managed by the cruise line. The price was cheaper, the schedule flexible, and the promises exciting. No one mentioned liability or emergency plans. The water looked calm as he stepped into the boat, but the guide was distracted, the equipment worn, and the instructions rushed. He entered the water, trusting strangers with his safety currents pulled stronger than expected. Panic surged when he realized he had drifted farther than the group. Shouting was useless over engine noise and waves. He managed to swim back, exhausted, shaken, but alive. The guide laughed it off, saying it happens all the time back on the ship. He felt uneasy, but relieved. He never reported the incident. Another mistake. Silence protects no one. He returned to routine, convinced the danger had passed. That evening, he leaned over the balcony rail, watching the ocean glide past below him. He leaned farther than he should, trying to capture the perfect photo. The ship swayed slightly, and his heart jumped as his balance shifted just enough to remind him how thin the line was between safety and disaster. He laughed nervously and stepped back, promising himself to be more careful. On the third day, he made another critical error. He walked barefoot around the pool deck. Wet surfaces and sharp edges are common hazards on ships. His foot slipped. He fell hard, striking his shoulder and head. Nearby passengers rushed over. Staff assisted him, but he insisted he was fine. Embarrassed and eager not to ruin his vacation, he declined medical evaluation. Concussions do not always announce themselves immediately. Hours later, confusion set in. His thoughts felt slow. Lights seemed too bright, sounds too loud. He retreated to his cabin, again choosing isolation over help. He slept while his condition worsened unnoticed. Ship sailed into rougher waters. That night, waves grew stronger, the motion intensified, and his nausea returned, but this time it was not from alcohol or motion sickness. It was something more serious. He vomited repeatedly and struggled to stand. His phone slipped from his hand as he tried to call for help. Fear crept in quietly. The next morning, housekeeping found him disoriented, barely responsive. Medical staff intervened, quickly stabilizing him, but the ship was far from sure. Evacuation decisions were debated. Minutes felt like hours. He drifted in and out of awareness, hearing fragments of voices, words like head injury, dehydration, delayed treatment. As The ship changed course toward the nearest port. He realized how many small decisions had led here, ignoring safety briefings, trusting unverified excursions, dismissing injuries, avoiding medical care, every mistake stacked on top of the next like waves building before a storm. Lying on the narrow medical bed, he stared at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the engines beneath him. The cruise he believed was harmless had exposed him to risks he never considered. The ocean does not forgive carelessness, and neither does isolation at sea. What he did not know yet was that the next decision would be the most dangerous one of all, and it would determine whether he ever walked off the ship again. He regained partial awareness as the ship slowed its engines. The medical bay smelled of antiseptic and recycled air. A doctor explained evacuation options, but distance, weather, and timing all mattered. Helicopters could not reach them yet, and the nearest port was still hours away. Every delay increased the risk. The injury in his head was swelling silently, pressure building where painkillers could only mask symptoms, not fix them. Fear settled deep, not panic, but a heavy realization that control was gone at sea. Choices narrow fast, and mistakes echo louder than on land. He remembered brushing off the fall, laughing through dizziness, choosing comfort over caution. That decision now stood between recovery and permanent damage. As hours passed, his condition fluctuated, moments of clarity followed by confusion. He struggled to remember simple details, his own cabin number, the day of the week, even why he was on the ship at all. Nurses monitored him closely, but resources were limited. A cruise ship is not a hospital, and that truth became painfully clear. Meanwhile, passengers continued their vacations. Unaware, pools were open, music played, dinners were served. The contrast was unsettling, danger and celebration separated by a few walls. This was another reality of cruising. Emergencies happen quietly, often unnoticed by thousands around you. When they finally reached port, an ambulance waited, but immigration protocols delayed transfer, paperwork, questions, signatures. Precious time lost. He was moved carefully onto a stretcher. Sunlight hit his eyes and the world spun again. Sirens faded in and out as he was rushed toward a hospital in a foreign country where language barriers and unfamiliar systems added new layers of vulnerability. Doctors confirmed a concussion with complications, severe dehydration, and internal bruising. He was lucky. They said luckier than most. Another few hours untreated could have led to seizures, permanent damage, or worse. His vacation had transformed into a medical crisis far from home. During recovery, he had time to think, long hours replaying each decision that led him there. None dramatic, none intentional, just small, careless moments adding up, ignoring safety information, assuming professionals would catch everything, trusting that nothing bad would happen because nothing bad had happened before. He learned later about others who were not as lucky, passengers who leaned too far over rails, slipped at night after drinking, drowned during unregulated excursions, delayed reporting illness until it was too late. Cruise ships are safe statistically, but only when passengers respect the environment. They are not theme parks. They are moving cities, isolated by water and governed by different rules. When he finally returned home weeks later, scars remained, not all visible. Confidence shaken, habits changed. He told everyone who would listen about the hidden risks, not to scare but to prepare. Cruises can be beautiful, unforgettable experiences, but only when travelers stay aware, hydrated, informed, and humble before the sea. The most dangerous mistake of all, he realized, was believing danger would announce itself loudly. In reality, it whispers through convenience, distraction, and overconfidence until suddenly it is too late to rewind. He survived because intervention came just in time, because someone checked on him, because fate allowed one more chance. Now every trip he takes is guided by awareness, not fear, and every story he tells carries one message: respect the ocean, respect the rules, and never assume safety is automatic. If this story opened your eyes, share it with someone planning a cruise. Like, subscribe, and stay connected for more real-life stories that could protect you when it matters most.